All right, Ms. Grant. So we've already narrowed it down to the standard that we're going to focus on, right? So what I would like for you to do is to, if you will go ahead, I want to dive into it. Go ahead and just read the standard. And as you're reading it, I want you to be thinking about what is it that students need to know and what do they need to be able to do in order to master this standard, okay? Just let me know when you're ready.
They have to know what place value is, the value of the numbers in a certain place. They have to
Will you note these things on the back of your...
And they have to know the relationship between addition and subtraction.
And you said place value?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then, yeah, and the relationship between addition and subtraction.
Mm-hmm.
And what do they need to do?
Mm-hmm. Can I add something? Can I add something here to the know?
Mm-hmm.
I think they need to know what each number represents when they're looking at the equation. That's when we're talking about the whole, the part, and the part.
Yeah, so the value of the number, right? Oh, well, the part whole. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Just understanding like what each number represents for that part.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else about the know? Okay. Let's talk about the do. What do they need to do?
Have to solve addition sentences up to 100. They have to solve subtraction sentences over 100 or over 100, up to 100.
Go ahead and note those things. Okay.
They're gonna have to skip count, be able to skip count, starting at any number.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Use physical models. You'll be able to show it, be able to write it, be able to mentally solve too.
Mm-hmm. And I think the other do there is that because you know your students very well, it's going to be really important that you push them, especially with this part, to label this part. And when we talk about the fluent, because I think the key here is fluently, right? And fluently means they need to be able to do it without thinking about it. And so what are things that they can do to help them do this work without thinking about it?
Probably skip counting out loud,
Okay.
skip counting to a friend, maybe sprints.
Sprints, okay. Because that definitely would help with
similar to what they're working on.
Mm-hmm.
Number bond, be able to like picture the number bond, the part and the whole in their head to know which operation to do. And yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so we have a list of do's. We have a list of the things that they need to know. Let's take a look at that question on the actual test. And what I want us to do, I would like for you, before we look at student work, I want you to work based off what you know students need to know and do. I want you to work this problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I want us to do is look at it from the perspective of an exemplar response to this question. All right, so just let me know when you're ready for that and we'll jump into it, okay?
You mean to solve the first one?
Yes, ma'am. Using everything you know that students are going to need to do and know.
Okay. They're going to need to know this is a part, and this is a part, and this is a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to need to know if I add these two numbers together, I'm going to get a humongous number.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a bigger number, which means I'm going to add 16 to a huge number, and I'm going to get a smaller number, so I wouldn't add. That wouldn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I need two smaller parts to make a larger whole. To get a smaller part, I need to subtract, even though it says add. So they would have to do 74 minus 16. They don't have enough ones, so they'd have to get it from the tens place, and they'd have to be able to subtract pretty much in their head without having to draw it. I mean, yeah.
Can they
draw
it?
They can draw
Yeah.
it, but ultimately you want them to be able to do that
Mm-hmm.
in their head.
All right, you gonna put your answer there? All right. So then my question to you is, I think another way to think about this is you as the adult, you know to label these parts.
Mm-hmm.
But what is going to be the most simple way for our students to get a true conceptual understanding of these two parts and the whole? Because you've talked about the number bun. Have you taught it this way before?
Yes.
Okay. I want you to try with your exemplar doing it with the number bun as well. Because when we look at all the student work, we're going to look at it from the perspective of either one of those ways.
So if they know that 74 is the whole, hopefully they
Mm-hmm.
would put 74 as the whole and
Mm-hmm.
16 as the part and realize that and read it the way it was taught, 74 minus 16, 74 minus something, yeah.
Or in order for me to find out
Mm-hmm.
the part that is missing, I'm gonna have to subtract these two numbers.
Because you don't have two parts to add together.
You don't have two parts to add together.
Yep.
All right. So then we'll go ahead and if you'll go ahead and put the 58 there, which even when we're talking about them checking the work, this is the way, if I add these two, this is the whole relationship, right? If this part is missing, I can say 75 minus 16, that gives me the part that's missing. If this is the part that's missing, 74 minus 58 leaves me with 16. Or if I'm trying to find out what the whole is, then I know that I need to add my two parts together in order to make the whole. Can we go ahead and label this part as well? So when we think about an exemplar, like what students are going to need to know, you walk yourself through that. What they're going to need to do, you've already done this. We're going to look at your student work, and we're going to see how many of your students, one, master that. I want to do it based off your exemplar, okay? The number of students that mastered it, and they can use either the vertical or the number button, all right? Which students mastered it, which students were close. And let's say that close is students who did this, but they got the answer wrong. That means they understand the concept of I know I have to have a whole. Yeah. And then the students, of course, who didn't do either or, then they're going to be wrong. So let's go ahead and sort those quickly. Let's just look at number 1 and do it, okay? Just for sake of time. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is close. It looks like he did it. I know this child. He did it in his head, and then he added the parts to see if it made 74, but he didn't actually add the parts. He did it in his head.
Okay.
So I would say almost, but only because he's a 10 off. But he looked like he did some work. He erased it, and then he tried to check it, and he didn't even check it right.
So what I want us to do, I want us to look for the trends, okay, across the board. So what I want you to do is don't look at each one and just break each one down. Just sort it first, and then we'll look for the trends, okay? Let me see what time it is. Let's take 2 minutes to do it.
So close. No. What was it, 68? That was 58. They're doing this in their heads. I'm not sure why they're doing that from. Nope. Nope.
Okay, so let's look at your exemplar. Your exemplar, the one that you did. And that's it, the one that you did. Remember you had the work that you did.
Oh.
Yeah. So your students that mastered, let's look at their work in comparison to the exemplar. And remember that we can take either one of those, right? So let's look at what they did in comparison to the exemplar. What did they nail?
They all subtracted.
They all subtracted.
And they subtracted correctly. They need to unbundle and all that good stuff.
Was there anybody that used something different than vertical that still got this answer right?
I think there was one student just illustrated, just did the flats and sticks. I think.
Oh, did stick and flats. Okay, and that wasn't even one of
Could
the.
have been wrong. Nope, that wasn't this one.
Okay, cool.
They all
So
subtracted.
they all subtracted. They all had the correct. They also had the correct sign. They showed their work, so you can tell that they did their work. Let's look at the students who almost did. And what we're going to look for here specifically is the gap. What is the gap there? What did they not do? Because they were close. And I want us to take note of that, okay?
Didn't unbundle. This student actually was correct. I don't know why I put that in the wrong file.
Oh, this one was correct. Well, actually, let's take a look at this. The answer is correct.
There was the addition sign.
Right, so I still would put that there. Mm-hmm.
Accuracy. She did the same thing, Jeremiah. She added. Well, I think it's because I said check your work. That's why they did that.
So one was unbundled. What was the other?
They added. Now, question. These two, we spent a lot of time saying check your work, check your work, check your work. They checked it by adding the parts. No, she added the whole, he added the whole. But then filled in the number bond correctly.
So they did fill in the number bond correctly.
Mm-hmm.
They added their whole to what?
Look, he put a plus. Okay, so they did the same thing.
Right.
They
so because if they
sign.
added the whole to 16, then they would have got more.
Got 58.
Yeah.
Well,
I think what they did was they did what they. Well, I don't know. I don't know what they did.
They did.
But I don't know if I trust that. Because I don't see evidence, right? Because I don't see evidence that said they did it in their head.
No idea how they got 50.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
The answer's right, but the work doesn't show how they got their answer. Same thing.
What when you say same thing? What do you mean?
They're all doing the same thing. They're adding the whole to the part, but they're getting 58 somehow. I think this 58 makes sense to them, but they don't know why it makes sense.
I don't know. I my first instinct is that they looked on someone's paper.
They're always separated. Remember, we were all.
I don't know. I mean, because I can't imagine this child doing it in their head and getting 58, especially this child. Kayana, I can't either. Like I can't imagine
she
doing
did some other stuff.
Okay, so she did. Let's look at that work and see if it equals up to 58.
So she did.
Because if it is, then that's valid. Like she has evidence.
She drew 16, and she drew 74.
But she added.
She did not make a group of 10. Well, she did. She added the 10, but then she started crossing stuff off, and I'm not sure why.
So there's no way. There's no 58 here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing.
Okay.
And then this one, he added something. He filled in his number bond. He was a 10 off.
So what is the gap here?
The gap is
like, so if you were thinking about what am I going to do with these students, where's your starting point based on the work they've showed you?
I would say paying close attention to the signs, looking at the equation carefully, doing their number bond first, and then looking at their parts and their wholes to make sure that whatever operation they're choosing, they're showing me their work. Like if you chose to subtract, make sure you actually did the math, which is what we're focusing on this week, is make sure you actually did the math. Mm-hmm. So if you did 14 plus 6, you wouldn't have got 68, you know? So this week we've been like, you actually have to do the math. Let me see how you added 14 plus 6 or how you subtracted 14 minus 6 instead of just copying over from your place, your sticks and dots.
And I think too, another place that I would push here is having them to label, because they're drawing the number bond, but they're not labeling the number bond. Which is having them to say that it's part whole, and even labeling the equation. The truth is, in my mind, it's much easier to see the relationship by labeling the number bond before I'm labeling this. If I'm a student I can't look at an equation and I don't know which one is the whole or which one is, like, if I don't have that number sense, in my mind, I can see it easier with a number bond than I can if it's just written out. Because if I look at this problem, that's not the same case, right? So my push to this group of children would be, I want to see the number bond every single time, just like this. And I want you to ask yourself, which number is the whole number? Because it's not going to always be the last number. And it's not going to always be the first number. Like, you have to understand what is reasonable here. All right, so